We call this meeting to order. Yeah, let's call this meeting to order. All right. Can we get a roll call, please?
We have 10:02, just to start. Austin,
Present.
Bertucci,
Here.
Dombrowski,
Here.
Limke,
Here.
Livergood,
Here.
Novak, Reinders.
Here.
For CCS, we have Rebecca Malinowski, Molly Sum, and Beth Stoneburner.
Thank you. Do we have any additions to the agenda?
I have one. We can also just include it in my report, just an update on phone notice and internet changes coming to CCS. Excuse me.
Great. See no other additions. Would anyone like to speak in public comments? I don't see any members of the public here or on the call, so let's move on to the consent agenda. Can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Reinders, so moved. Or I'll fight with whoever just said that.
I'll second Bertucci.
Okay. All right. Any discussion before we approve this? Oh, no,
No discussion on
no
consent.
discussion. Right. Okay, great. All right. We do roll call on the consent. I'll get this down by the,
Yeah, we're supposed to do a roll call for consent agenda.
Thank you.
Austin,
Yes.
Bertucci,
Yes.
Dombrowski,
Yes.
Limke,
Yes.
Good,
Yes.
Reinders.
Yes.
All right. Moving on to business. All right, new and potential members.
So in your packet, we have new member recommendations. We have membership requests from Rolling Meadows Library and Wakanda Area Public Libraries as new CCS members. In your packet, I included some information about their kind of like library demographics, a link to the Rails kind of comparative report, and some information that each library had put together, kind of indicating their awareness of and commitment to the kinds of work that CCS does. I have no concerns about their membership and would love to see them as members. Our process is that executive committee would recommend them, and that next month governing board would vote, and then we'd kick off the project in January. Are there questions I can answer?
I like how we're bridging the east and west gap with Wakanda.
Me too.
Getting a lot of blue on here. Love it.
Yeah, we're getting there. And obviously you would have because my only not fear, but is it because the system can handle it, but we know the system can handle it, so there's really no downside at this point, right? So
yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I mean, our biggest concern in terms of like system performance is the actual load and the increasing time it takes to do the data load. And we'll be continuing to dive into that with Innovative. We've got kind of a multidisciplinary team looking at it since none of us are happy with it, with the amount of downtime that's required to add a library.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's also sort of like short-term pain for long-term gain for patrons and members.
Yeah. We're kind of have down to rhythm as a member. I mean, not that staff likes it, but I think after a couple of times you just get, it's okay. We know we have to do this. So. Other discussion, any other concerns anyone might have, comments?
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation to add Rolling Meadows and Wakanda to be decided by governing board.
Second.
All right.
Is that Dombrowski and Lemke?
It is.
Thank you.
All right, roll call vote of this one, I'm assuming.
Because we're virtual with executive committee, we do roll call votes for everything.
Excellent.
Austin,
Yes.
Bertucci,
Yes.
Dombrowski,
Yes.
Lemke,
Yes.
Good,
Yes.
Reinders.
Yes.
All right, and next on the agenda, we'll check the status of Vernon area, how that's going.
So Vernon is cruising. They are live. There's some more information about the addition on the website. Really, the biggest component that we have left is the bib merge process, which is about halfway done as of October 22nd, which is faster than in the past, but we'll kind of wait and see if that trend continues. The big difference this time is that we have cataloging maintenance center staff supporting us with the bib merge. And so hopefully that will move faster. And then this is something we're continuing to kind of work on improving and being able to do more automated as opposed to manual. We did our post go live Simply Reports training. We had some office hours for Vernon. But all reports are that things are going well.
Great. Any questions about Vernon?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment and a suggestion. So one of the things I saw in the report, which by the way was super awesome, I love that you do this follow-up report. So one of the things I saw in there was a request or a comment about communication materials being available to libraries to use, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my suggestion to consider is I would love it if CCS could help provide actual language. Because like when we were, when we were creating our own, public communications about the downtime and stuff like that, my staff told me that they would, draft something and then they would send it to Mako and be like, does this sound right? And then, we'd use it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can only imagine that most of us libraries were doing something of the same thing. So
Mm-hmm.
perhaps there's a way where CCS, and obviously we can work with you, could provide a document that's like, here's suggested language to use in your public communications. So that's one small thing. The other thing is I wondered if it would somehow be possible, on Rails, how they have like a document library, like you can go and look up, other job descriptions or whatever. I was feeling like that might be helpful because, again, all of us 31 libraries are probably creating our own marketing materials, and it might be nice if we could upload them, even if they're not like proper editable templates, even if they're just, images or screenshots so we can get an idea. In a perfect world, maybe some of us libraries that have robust marketing departments could actually create some templates, a couple in Word, some in Canva, or, InDesign or whatever. Yeah, so those are the three things. And this has come up for me because we're talking about the BiblioCommons, or BiblioCore, sorry, the BiblioCore migration. I'm like, well, we're going to have to do the same thing, right? The same kind of communications to our patrons. What does it mean? That kind of thing. So I'm not looking necessarily, Rebecca, to put workload on CCS to create marketing materials, but rather host a library and perhaps provide some accurate content, that we can wrap the marketing language around.
Yes, I think that makes sense. Thank you.
That's an interesting idea.
Were there other questions about the report? I would like to thank Mieko and Molly. This is the fastest turnaround we've had on our post-migration reports. So if there's any questions or any changes you'd suggest before we send it along to governing board, we're happy to do that.
Yeah, it was a great report as always. So thank you. All right. Current projects, find more Illinois evaluation.
Yeah, so Deborah is on a much deserved vacation. So I will be talking about this, but I don't know as much as Deborah does. But our goal today is to give you a preview of what we're planning to talk about at governing board in a couple of weeks, so that if there's changes or questions or requests, we can attempt to address them before the meeting. So Deborah is working on a presentation that I'll pull up in a minute. It is linked in your packet, that includes a summary of year one statistics, and kind of looking at OCLC versus Find More. And then in addition to the CCS overview of kind of like the data and usage, Layla from Rails will attend, as will Joe and Monica, and they'll be talking a little bit more broadly about Rails vision and strategic direction for Find More Illinois, since that is kind of out of our hands within CCS. And then as a reminder, our overall process is that we'll talk about it in November, do this initial discussion and presentation. Again, this data is looking at year one because that's like a complete reporting period. And then we'll do kind of an update for February with like the additional, at least half of year two. And then in February, we'll have a vote on whether or not we continue with consortium-wide participation in Find More Illinois. If we continue with consortium-wide participation, we'd move ahead with implementing Mount Prospect and Waukegan shortly after that. And if we do not, then libraries would have the option of continuing without the consortium-wide discount. And then we would deactivate libraries that are not planning to continue. So we'd have some like collection of preferences and Rails contracts and stuff that libraries would need to work on. So here. So Deborah's presentation, I'm not going to like go through kind of the whole shebang. We talked about we'll talk about like what the goals were originally. She'll review the timeline that I just covered. Cost has been a major consideration. Rails has given us a 30% discount for 2 years. Moving forward, it would be a 15% discount. They did design their funding formula, and the 15% discount and the new funding formula puts us kind of basically where we've been at the 30% discount. So there wouldn't necessarily be a cost increase, although this number here doesn't include Wakanda and Rolling Meadows, which would be, again, a future us problem. And then the usage data is here, and it's there is a full Tableau dashboard, which is also linked in your packet. You do need to log in with your L2 credentials, which I've done here. And Deborah will give kind of a more robust presentation on that content. But she's pulled out some of the more, I don't know, robust or telling pieces of data. And what's really interesting is that borrowing, we had like kind of like a bump of borrowing kind of right after most libraries went live. And then we saw this decline in libraries kind of like leveled out. And what we don't have great information on is if it's just like libraries aren't promoting it to patrons, and so it's not being used in that way, or if it's that the content's not there. And it's pretty difficult for CCS to like kind of go through request by request in OCLC and say like this is or isn't in Find More. But you can see we've kind of leveled out to like 150-ish requests, borrowing requests from our live libraries per month. When we compare that to OCLC, as we expected, OCLC just has a lot more use. So that's not really a surprise. We knew going into this project that OCLC, that Find More is not yet a full replacement for OCLC. there's been some like back and forth, like we've spent a lot of time on this fill rate data, because they report differently. The two systems report
Mhm.
the data differently and trying to like normalize it. So OCLC does seem to have a better fill rate than Find More Illinois, meaning that requests that end up in Find More, we think maybe 60 to 70% of them are filled. And the ones that are not filled, it's unclear to me, and Deborah might know more. I don't know if you know Molly. If no, Molly does not know if they're like timing out, or if like when staff go to find the material, it wasn't actually on the shelf or what.
Mhm.
But the fill rate is not great. But again, there's some discrepancy in the reporting that Deborah and Bob have been working very diligently to hash out. So that may be updated for governing board. We're lending 2.5-ish times as much as we're borrowing, which we also thought was going to be the case. Most of our requests are filled internally, and we have a lot of material in the Find More Illinois collection, so this isn't really a surprise. And again, compared to OCLC, it's a lot fewer requests overall. We do see a modest increase, and again, this is actually a little bit more data. This is through August of 2025, whereas the previous reports were through June of 2025. So this is a little bit of a longer timeline. There does appear to be an increase in statewide activity within Find More Illinois, modest but steady growth, which is good. And one of our goals was to promote that resource sharing and see activity increase. This is really interesting, and I think something the board should carefully consider is that CCS items have accounted for 36% of all filled Find More Illinois holds since we joined. So it's not to say if we left that content wouldn't be available from other libraries, but it's not to say that it would be either. So something to think about, right? I don't know if you guys could see Ryan's face, but it's thoughtful. And then we did ask some interlibrary loan staff to track their time, the time spent on working with Find More Illinois and working with OCLC. And Deborah is still working on this analysis, and even determining if the data is going to answer the question. Our hypothesis is that Find More Illinois takes less staff time per request than OCLC because there's just fewer steps to filling the holds. But based on like that was a concern when we were making the original decision, is well, this is one more thing my staff have to do, and like another platform they have to know, and another thing they have to spend time on. So how much time is being spent is something we were trying to get at. So again, Deborah is more engaged in this data than I am, but she'll present that data. We're happy to, again, what questions you have that this doesn't seem to answer, I would love to know today, so we can either see if we can answer it or pass them along to Rails. Again, we met with Layla last week to talk about this upcoming presentation, and we said that one of our major concerns was growth. Like our goal was to kind of come in and be a catalyst for other libraries coming in to like see more growth in the system. And that we've been a little bit confused about what the Rails strategy is in terms of recruiting libraries, and like, is there not an aggressive strategy, but is there like an active strategy to go out and get libraries as opposed to like wait, like CCS, like we are not taking like an active stance to go out and recruit libraries. We're just like chilling and waiting for libraries to come to us, and that's fine. But for a system like Find More, we kind of expect a different process. So Rails is going to talk about that. And I think the answer is they've been focused on the academic libraries, and they have had, it does sound like there's some stuff I can't share, but Layla had a whole list of things. And I was like, well, if any of those can be public for this meeting, that will be helpful. But if it's all still like question marks in the air. So I'll stop there.
Rebecca, one thing I think it would be helpful to see is, and I don't know if they can break it down this way. I imagine they could, but the percent that's going to small and rural libraries, because I know when I first talked to Dee about this idea several years back, we were talking about that being a major driver of starting this system. And for us, we have had almost all of our requests from Helen Plum Library in Lombard, and none, zero going to small and rural. So I would really, I think as a member making a decision, especially a financially significant one, on whether to continue something that appears to have no benefit for us, on the user end, what's going out is not going where we hoped it was going. And so that to me is leaving question marks as to how much sense it makes to continue.
That is
I
a
agree.
very
And
good
that
point.
was a note I had already shared with Layla, is like, we wanted to be reaching these more like funding stressed libraries, and like, is there any evidence that that's what's happening? So I'll reiterate that as well.
Cool.
So I did a small calculation. Math is not my strong point, so this could be not applicable. But what I did is I took the number of CCS borrows, which is 2,173, and I divided that by the $85,000 that we would theoretically be paying, right, going forward. And that came out to be $39 per item borrowed by a CCS library. We could buy one or more copies for it. It just stood out to me. And you already mentioned the 36% of all fills. Those were the two numbers that took me aback a little bit, especially when I think about some of the additional costs that CCS is incurring, and hearing some of the members talk about, cost at the our last meeting when we were choosing our discovery layer. Philosophically, I get why we would want to do this. Financially, this one is a real stretch. And I'm not saying that just because I don't want to have to go live with it, which is also true.
Rebecca, so the first 2 years, the cost was from development. So the 85,000, that would come back to us like in our court, as part of our annual, right? Like how is that?
That's a great question. So we're continuing to receive support from Rails through the LSAP grant. And what's been happening is that grant money goes into the development fund and the Find More money goes out of the development fund. So it's not directly impacting fees. As it did impact like you getting how much rebate you got. And like in the future, there is no rebate, in part going to what Sue says, that like now we've got this discovery layer and we've got Orange Boy. And so now those three programs all together are more than the Rails grant, right? So then we're spending down development and or moving stuff into operating. And we do have a plan to like operationalize those costs in a staggered period over several years. But eventually, yes, those costs will all become operationalized, but not next year or the year after.
Thank you.
But yeah, we're spending a lot of money. Like we've been very conservative for a lot of years, and now we're adding these new services, and that costs money. And I'm excited about them, and they're great. And we have to decide how many of them we want to sustain.
I think the only thing I would add, and you've already touched on it, is this, and they're going to talk about it. It's good that they're coming to discuss their strategy, because I'm with you. This definitely was a leap of faith.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the persons that I literally pounded on the table. I think I remember, when I got here, I was on the Rails Resource Sharing Committee, and I know that Dee Brennan has had this vision for a long time for this. A lot of other states have this. Massachusetts has this. It's all the libraries in the state. You can go and look at their catalogs and request things. And it just seems that it's not getting the traction for whatever reason. So it will be good to get some inside answers on that because it's hard for us to justify continuing. It's not our, as much as I want to, like, from like my heart says, oh, let's keep going, but my head says clearly, unless something is dramatic's going to change, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'll add a slide about budget specifically and like the Rails funding and like these new services to bring that kind of summary together. And then I'll ask, I don't know if it'll be Deborah or if it'll be Rails, but I'll ask about small and rural. Sue, I think your math is right on the number of borrows. Like it's not calculus. I think you nailed it. Are there other questions or content that we should consider adding that you think your colleagues will want to hear at governing board?
I would really love to hear from anybody who thinks it's very successful for their library and how they're achieving that success, because the trend in libraries so much now is so many of the questions you get in person have to do with technology. They're trying to print, they're trying to do all that stuff. You're not getting the questions about materials particularly. So it really depends on the people sitting alone at home, trying to figure it out through your website. And so if somebody has figured out a good way to nudge them to try these other things, that would be great to know. Yeah, we are not borrowing anything at all. Ever. So yeah, it would be very hard for me to argue for it, even though I liked the idea of something more statewide.
All right, other thoughts on Find More? Shall we move on to BiblioCore implementation? All right, BiblioCore implementation.
BiblioCore implementation. It's happening. So I'm not sharing my screen, but let me go ahead and do that. We sent a survey out to LibAdmin on October 23rd. And we are asking for responses back by Friday, but it's pretty simple, just telling us who your contact should be for this project. I did not check what the completion rate is on that, but we will. I'm sure Mieko has it on her list to send a reminder, but I will double check. So I added some information about the contract in the packet. The total amount of the contract was a little bit less than we talked about at governing board because it's not currently including BiblioCloud records, not Blue Cloud, and BiblioFinds, because we're not sure that they will be a benefit to our library staff and patrons, particularly BiblioCloud records. So we're doing some more research on this. And as I noted in the packet, both Glenview and Evanston went live without BiblioCloud records. Evanston then went back and added it, and Glenview has not added it. And both are able to check out e-content records from the catalog. So we're doing some testing and exploration because it's not an insignificant cost. And if, cost has been a major factor, if we can trim a little bit, let's do it. And then we're working with BiblioCommons on ePay integration. The current integration still uses PowerPack as an intermediary, and that's what Evanston and Glenview have been doing, and it's cumbersome, and we would like to uncumber it. The PayPal integration, BiblioCommons is like, you should just use it. It's great, and it's really cost effective. But libraries we talk to are still saying there's merchant account fees that are like $30 a month, and we just worked to onboard everyone to ePay. And so we are pushing them on that development. It is in progress. It was in progress and then stalled. And so they're in progressing it. So I'll continue to work on that. I did just get some additional pricing from Susan earlier this week on other features that honestly I have not looked at yet. So I will get that out before governing board. So if there are questions, I can en masse take them back to BiblioCommons. But again, any additional features like BiblioWeb, Biblio Events, Biblio Mail, those you would contract directly with BiblioCommons on and not go through CCS. We're just happy to provide the pricing so everyone is kind of getting the same formula and like they have done a lot of, I don't know about a lot. They've done some work on this pricing. Typically everything is done through by service population for BiblioCommons with like pretty significant minimums. But they heard our comments and concerns about pricing, especially for our smaller libraries, and added in library revenue as a component to their pricing to bring some of those prices down for the smaller or less funded libraries. So those exist, and I'll be sending out an update before governing board. We're aiming for spring, late spring, like April, May-ish go live, but we are just getting into that now. And BiblioCommons is like, oh yeah, we'll do it in like 12 weeks, but we may want to add some time. This like first component is like filling out all these surveys about setup. And there are a significant number of centralized decisions that need to be made. So we're going to add a couple of weeks in that process to get better input and communication with the members. So Miyako is working on that as we speak. I just said a lot of words. What questions can I answer?
It sounds like a good plan that's moving forward. And I'm glad they came down a little bit on the price. I wish all of the vendors would stop charging us based on service population. Especially when we know like not even all members of any community have a library card. So,
Exactly.
but that is not for us to fry here, but I appreciate you going back to them and negotiating on the price. Rebecca, thank you for doing that for us.
Sure, literally my job. Happy to do it.
Hey, just because it's your job doesn't mean it's an easy ask, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate the thoughtfulness of adding those couple extra weeks to make sure the implementation is done correctly. I think that's wise. So very smart.
Sue, you unmuted. Did you have a thing or just?
I did not. That was an accident.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions about BiblioCore implementation, or shall we move on to Orange Boy Savannah implementation? Lots of implementations.
And I don't have to talk about this one.
I get to talk about this one. It's also happening. I have a presentation I'm planning to do for governing board, and I will walk you through that so you can get an overview of what I'm thinking about, what I know is important to communicate. So far we've already delivered the onboarding packet. We got a data inventory from most of our member libraries, and the Polaris integration is complete. So we are getting some standard reports in Orange Boy already on card holders, new signups, and they provide some clustering on like user personas for library patrons. So we're able to see all that in Orange Boy today. I'm currently working with a subset of the libraries who opted into being test partners on getting their e-content credentials and testing a consortia configuration in Orange Boy for that, because that's new. So I will go ahead and, do you want me to share?
Yeah.
So there we go. Governing board, planning to remind everybody about what the objectives for this project are. I have a few reminders on what is Orange Boy versus what is Savannah, because that language is kind of confusing. Reminding everyone that our contract does not include messaging or library IQ, because that has come up several times. I'll walk through the roadmap that was in the proposal that was in the packet for executive committee. Everything in phase 1, which is through February, is something where Orange Boy gave us a list and said, this is what you should start with. And we said, okay. But then identified more tools to automate through the end of July that were all used by a significant portion of our library, thanks to that data inventory. And then there will be continuous improvement for ongoing requests for new sources. Already gave you this update on where we are now. I have an overview of some of the more granular details for phase 1 through February. That entire schedule is in the project plan. Walking through how we're going to be measuring success for that phase, and some frequently asked questions about how we're using data and should I keep my existing Orange Boy account, and what's the difference between Orange Boy and Web Reports and Simply Reports, and what am I going to use for what? And then just some next steps on, what's going to be needed from the libraries in the coming months. For example, Orange Boy recommended that if libraries want to see computer usage data against patron demographics, that information needs to be stored with cardholder ID, which not all of our members do. Any questions I can answer today, or anything that you want to make sure gets added to this to cover for governing board, I would be happy to know.
Okay, first off, this is great. And thank you for including low-level things like what in the hell is Orange Boy and what is Savannah? Because Rebecca and I had a lengthy chat about that at ILA. Also, I saw in the news, I think it was like 4 weeks ago, we got something. Library Market is our website provider, and we saw that they are now, I forget if they bought Orange Boy or Orange Boy bought them, but there's some kind of thing. And so I'm wondering what that's going to look like being a Library Market customer with potential access to Orange Boy and then through the consortium. So that's just, I don't know if you have any insight on that, Molly.
I was just at Data Day for Orange Boy yesterday, and this did come up. For the foreseeable future, Library Market, Library IQ, and Orange Boy are remaining separate. So there may be some possibility for integrations between them, but there's no immediate plan to merge anything.
Okay, cool.
That's really interesting, though, to think about these things coming together.
Yes.
That would be a pretty powerful solution.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
It might even make me get off of Communico and go to Library Market for my event calendar if it all worked together. Anyway.
Yeah, this is like super fascinating when we're thinking about like a CCS system-wide app in the future. And we have you can have your calendar integrate with BiblioCore, or maybe you have better direct access with your calendar and programming events into Orange Boy, or again, when we're looking at system-wide apps, are we looking at Solus? Are we looking at Kapira? Are we looking at BiblioCommons? And what pieces do they all have? There's this Venn diagram is getting very messy and weird. So it's definitely something we're tracking. And we'll be interested to see what changes in terms of feature set. But it's a wild time. It's I gotta get off LinkedIn.
I know Library Market, that acquisition just happened this month, so I'm sure the engineers haven't even gotten together yet to talk about what they could or couldn't do.
Well, and just to throw this in, I was at Directors Summit a few weeks ago, and I think Communico is working on a discovery layer.
Of course they are.
So
This looks great, Molly. Thank you for this. I'm excited for you to show it to governing board and have them ooh and ah over all of the information.
I have one small follow-up question. Is this, oh, I love all those pictures of the cats. That
I
is
know. We get so fascinated. We can't
fun.
even focus.
God, that's great.
Well, we
My
need some more cats, so
yeah.
Orange Boy Savannah is here to give us more cats.
Excellent. My question is will libraries be asked to provide sort of a Orange Boy lead similarly to what we're doing with BiblioCore, or is this a little bit more distributed?
So when we distributed the data inventory, we asked for a contact.
Oh,
So
okay,
that's
great.
who we've been using as
Thank you.
our main point of contact for Orange Boy implementation needs.
Awesome. Thank you. I forgot about that.
Yeah, no worries. So just to, because we're here, here is an example of a report in Savannah that is pulling from all of our member library data, and all of the reports they're giving us are filterable by individual library branches. So
That is amazing.
I cannot
That's
wait to get
very
my
exciting.
hands on this. Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
And Molly, we have our first round of training scheduled or tentatively penciled in for.
DCS will receive training
Okay.
in hopefully November and December, potentially into January for different modules that we'll need access to. And then we'll be scheduling member training in January to be completed by the end of February. And the reason that we timed it that way is so that it includes the standard reports with data from Polaris and e-content and computer usage and the individual and CCS-wide market watch reports. So we wanted to get a good variety of data in there before we started training any member libraries. If I train you on just Polaris data, it's not very exciting.
well, and also it helps to, as a former tech trainer, it helps to know the system before you start getting questions. And you're like,
Yes.
oh, hey, I'm learning with you. Like, let's learn together, but not super helpful.
So hopefully by the time we are giving member training, we will already have had training on how to build custom reports for the library. So we'll have a better idea of what we can do to support those data questions.
I'm so excited, Molly.
I'm just, it is so exciting. I want to start getting libraries in there now, and I know it's a terrible idea. But
No, it's a great idea. It's a great idea, right? Right, Monica?
Oh yeah, I need it today.
I can help. I'll be a beta.
Yeah, we'll be guinea pigs.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you, Molly. This is really, really exciting. We're all excited about it. Do we want to transition to overall migration analysis, which is super impressive, this analysis, by the way?
Yeah, more Molly. Molly put together looking at our time tracking data and our ticket system. What is really most helpful as an internal report, but I just wanted to show off how smart and great Molly is, so I gave it to you. But if you have questions, we're happy to, Molly mostly is happy to answer them. So that is linked in your packet, and we're talking about this one. That's the overall migration analysis.
So was there anything specific, Molly, that came out of this that surprised you or made you plan to do something different in the future?
I think the most surprising thing to me was how quickly after migration a library returns to like a maintenance level of support. I think, at least I don't know what everybody else thought. I thought it took longer with more post-migration support for the library to kind of settle down into a maintenance pattern that matched how much time we typically spend on the library in a year after migration. But it was really quick. So that's good to know. That it seems like a good indicator that migrations are going smoothly. And then we know that we don't have to plan as much buffer time immediately after a migration.
We can let Mieko go on vacation.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, just this, you're right. This is obviously more useful for CCS staff than anyone else, but incredibly impressive. And just the fact that you're analyzing each time you do this and improving an already really exceptional process in terms of um, migration. It's really impressive. So well done.
Thank you.
I know Deborah and her team are going to be focused, like training is, as we knew, like the bulk of time spent. And I don't think it's in the report, but separately, Molly has some information on training prep versus like time spent in training. And we're pleased to see that the time on prep per session essentially has decreased with each migration, which we would expect because our trainers are getting better at and doing basically the same training every time. But we still think there's some room to kind of streamline those processes. Because again, that's this section, phase 3, where we're spending a lot of time and a lot of it is with staff, like in the room. But I think, Molly, is it right that in the last migration, it was basically a 1-to-1 amount of time, like training and prep?
Have it.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Sorry.
I have the data. Might as well.
While Molly's pulling that up, I'll say that this is also this type of data, this time tracking data and this ticket data. We're going to be talking with budget and finance about our fee structure in part because we review it every so often anyway, and then in part because of the discussions at governing board at our last meeting. So Molly's going to be digging more broadly into I guess how CCS time is spent and if there are indicators that we should be taking into account in our fee formula that we are not, or like false assumptions that are built into our fee formula. So this type of analysis that she's kind of like been working on will feed into and be enhanced in a future project.
In the most recent migration, training prep was 55% of total training hours.
So pretty close to like,
Yeah.
So we think that could maybe decrease a little bit more again as we're ironing out like what works and what doesn't work in training. There's always going to be things we need to customize per library.
A lot of the notes are just physically prepping the space,
Yeah.
printing materials. That type of thing is going to
Take time. Yeah. Thanks, Molly.
Yeah, awesome. Well done. Really well done. Not only does Molly do great work, but I love Molly's enthusiasm for this like data. It's awesome. It's awesome to see. So
She's pumped, guys. I can attest.
all right. Innovative updates.
That is me since Deborah is out. We did have some performance issues in the past month. They were all basically kind of like internet issues, which with a cloud-based service are like going to happen. This web crawler issue was something we experienced last year that we put some parameters in place to prohibit. But apparently bots can ignore the rules. So Innovative is working on blocking them at like the firewall level, as opposed to also just like in like the instructions for bots on PowerPack. We are planning to upgrade to 8.0 when it is released. We did skip the last Polaris upgrade just because of, while we're interested in the features that were being released, they were not major. And with the migration schedule, there wasn't a great time to build it in. So in 8.0, we'll be getting 7.8 features as well as 8.0. And what's interesting about 8.0 is that Innovative is largely considering 8.0 is reaching like parity between Leap and the staff client. That as a matter of general practice, when they implement a new library, they will not, and this does not refer to CCS implementations, as they implement a brand new customer, they will not be like delivering the staff client unless the customer specifically requests it. It'll all be Leap based. So again, they're not taking away the staff client. We are not taking away the staff client. We'll continue to kind of proceed as we have been. but that's where they feel they're at with development. An update that's not in the packet is I'll be going to like an innovative directors day at the beginning of December that they just announced. So we're going to talk about AI and personalization. Can't wait. So I'll have an update for that in probably at the December executive committee meeting.
Would be interesting.
Yeah.
Any questions about innovative updates? Okay, we'll move on to additional personal day discussion, excuse me.
We have this right up in the packet really as a heads up. If there's any concerns or questions, we'll take them back. But because we have other handbook changes coming, we're not asking for action today. Basically, Beth and I went through the HR Source library survey. We paid to get the extra behind the scenes data to look at all the CCS libraries and what they offer in terms of PTO and some other benefits. We were pretty competitive on everything, but we think there's a little bit of room for improvement on PTO. And so we're requesting to add a personal day rather than an additional holiday. So CCS continues to be open when the libraries are open.
Rebecca, can I ask, what are your paid holidays?
That's a great question. And I'm going to turn to Beth.
In calendar order.
Hi, Beth. What are your paid holidays?
This is easy. This is an easy one.
Love it.
New Year's Day, Memorial, Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, day after Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve.
Bravo.
Thanks, Beth.
And we did look at all of the member libraries holiday schedule as well, just to see if there were maybe some days that your locations maybe were closed that we weren't, or vice versa. So that's another reason why we kind of landed on personal versus adding a holiday. Just it was pretty aligned with the days you were closed.
Other questions about this?
I just was wondering what is the basis for recommending 4 instead of 5 personal days?
We looked at the total amount of PTO offered, like the total days of PTO, and wanted to be in the top 25% of days offered for our member libraries. And so really only adding one more day put us there. I'm happy to take 2, Monica. I would never begrudge my staff PTO. I think they work very hard. But that was
okay.
That was it.
I would just, for me, I'd rather see you guys add 2 more personal days to make it an even 5. Of course, that is coming from me, who has 13 paid holidays here, and 5 personal days and 20 vacation days for all the full timers. But I just, I know my people, that is the thing that they always want more of. And it's kind of free in a way, you know what I mean? I'm paying them either way. So I feel like some of our other paid holidays are the Sunday of Labor Day and the Sunday of Memorial Day. So I would just advocate for, again, because your team isn't that big and they work very hard. I would rather see you guys add 2 more than 1.
I would support that. And also, Monica, do you have any positions open?
I know, right? I know that's one of my major selling features here, right? But again, when I came, we didn't have a lot of time off. We also didn't pay very well or have great benefits. So I've had to work on all of those. But the one that staff continues to say, never take that away, is the paid time off. So I even I added 2 days. I give them a free day off coupon for Library Worker Appreciation Day and one for the holidays. And they can use that anytime within 3 months of issuance. So again, when you look at what's going to keep people from going, to like a corporate role where they might make a lot more money, the paid time off to me is what libraries can offer in spades. And when you work with the public, I feel like you need more time off than some other types of jobs that I have personally even had. So I'm always in favor of doing more in that way.
Can I just ask a question? Does it sound like the preference would be adding personal days as opposed to a holiday where we may be off and you're open? Like, that's kind of what I'm getting from this, but because we did look at maybe adding, I had suggested like President's Day, just to bridge that gap between New Year's and Memorial Day. We have 5 months where we don't have a holiday off, but we also have very generous PTO that people could take President's Day or whatever, Indigenous Peoples' Day. So does it sound like that would be more the preference, is by focusing on personal instead of holiday, we're avoiding the concern of being closed when you're open?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so for sure. And I think that's probably more beneficial to CCS staff as well, because it gives you more flexibility. Because that way you want that.
Mhm.
I think it's a win-win.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that feedback.
Although I would just put in my 2 cents that I think the Sundays of Labor Day weekend and Memorial Day weekend, most of us have limited hours on Sundays anyway, if we're open. So I wouldn't be mad at 2 personal days and those 2 additional holidays off. Just my
We're
2
already
cents.
closed on Sundays.
Okay, great. Do you have on-call staff that has to?
We do have on-call staff, but they are it's pretty low key.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
have your cell phone with you.
That's who I was thinking of more.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it's like not really that huge of an issue unless the system goes down, in which all hands on deck, right? Regardless of who's off.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This, I think you're going to get a little pushback. If does this go to governing board? If we at all, okay, then
No,
don't
this
worry
is a
about it.
personnel committee. It would just come back to executive committee.
That's fine then. I just think, we certainly heard from some libraries at the last governing board meeting that we're feeling like we were pushing them to spend more money anyway. And I will say this is way more generous than Lincolnwood has, and I would have said Lincolnwood had very generous PTO. So I am a little startled by it, but still, I really like your thinking behind it, that you're trying to have staff available when we are going to need staff. And yeah, I absolutely agree that it is a great way to retain good staff and to attract good staff. So I am not opposed to it at all, but I do think if it had gone to the governing board, you'd have gotten some pushback.
Fair.
It's always so tricky with things like this. Like, I went to my board to ask to be closed on the day after Thanksgiving, and it devolved in this situation where it felt like they were going to take away like 4 weeks of vacation and put everybody back down to 2. Like, it was this whole thing, and I get really panicked. And I'm like, no, I withdraw everything. I will not talk to about anything, because they're coming from their own personal experience. And we're open 7 days a week. We're open 12 hours a day, right? And which is different. I don't know. My point here is I hear what you're saying, Susan. The comparison can be tough, and I do support this.
Yeah, and I would argue we would be careful when we're looking at a public library versus, this library consortium, because it's different. And I think at the end of the day, your recommendation, like, my only concern, does this impact CCS operationally? And clearly you did the analysis and it doesn't. So what's the downside? It only improves CCS because it just makes it a more productive place to work.
Yeah.
And happy employees are more efficient employees. And so it just seems like a win. So yeah, I'm with you, Susan. I think it might be a little bit of an uphill battle, but I would certainly use that gavel and pound it and try to make clear that there's a difference. It's like apples and oranges. It's not the same thing. So I think this is just smart and being competitive, and it doesn't impact CCS operationally. So why not? So do we need to, so it's the personnel committee, will you go back to them and say, executive, we spoke about it, and we think it should be 5 days? Or-
You are the personnel committee. This
Oh.
is the personnel
Oh.
committee.
I knew that, I was
Yeah.
testing you.
I know, I
Definitely.
appreciate that, keeping me on my toes.
Yeah, that's right.
We're working on our tuition reimbursement policy, so we're just gonna ask for approval for all of the things at once. So, but I just wanted to like get a feeler for today. So no action today. We'll bring it back with the other handbook changes, so we only have to update the document once.
Okay, sounds good.
Are we ready for
Yeah.
e-read? Oh
Yeah,
boy.
E-read.
E-read. So this was not in your packet because it was not announced when I wrote the packet. But we have the libraries on my screen are e-read participants. So it's just Park Ridge who's on this call, is that right? But I feel like e-read kind of affects everyone just to like know what's happening. With the closure of Baker and Taylor, Rails has to leave the Boundless platform. And so we are supporting their transition to the Palace project. We sent out a survey to participating members. So you're not a participating member, you don't have to do anything. That is gathering some like branding information. Like it's a quick one. And we're asking for a quick turnaround on that because everything is a quick turnaround. Rails will be stopping holds on the Palace or on the Boundless platform on November 2nd to give time for the content to be returned, because it cannot be migrated if it's not returned. They've got webinars coming up in November about the Palace project app, like training for library staff on November 10th and 13th. Boundless will be turned off on November 17th, and then the Palace project will be live on December 2nd. So again, for participating members, there will be like this 2-week gap. CCS will be helping to, we have e-read content in Polaris, so we'll have to remove that content. Again, Deborah's on vacation. So she was working really hard on this last week. She's on vacation this week, and then we'll finish up the plans to remove the records when she returns. This potentially affects Northbrook as well. There are only member that uses Boundless that's not an e-read member, but we haven't heard from them on like if they're migrating their collection somewhere else or if it's just stopping. So that is kind of the e-read update. This, again, the removal of records, that sort of work won't require any downtime. It won't affect members that are not e-read participants, but I'll include a cleaned up version of this write-up that I did not scribble at 9 a.m. this morning in the governing board packet.
How will the Palace project integrate, if at all, with BiblioCort, the Biblio implementation?
That is a great question. It is not currently integrated. Palace project is working on the integration, but they have to pause work on the integration to onboard the e-read libraries.
Right.
But it will be integrated in the future, which would potentially be a reason to move forward with the Blue Cloud or Biblio. I gotta get off the Blue Cloud. The Biblio Cloud record tool, if we see value in it, because we can load the records directly into Polaris, but they won't be integrated, so you won't be able to like check them out through the app or through BiblioCort. I have to go grab my charger, but my computer's about to die. Molly can talk about the
USB-C, you can use my.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ryan.
Of course, you're welcome.
I don't have to run and grab my charger. My screen just dimmed and I was like, ah. So that's the e-read status. One thing about the Palace project is that it is an aggregator of e-content. So Rails's goal is to have not only the e-read content in for participating members, but also to like bring in Libby content or other e-content. So patrons have a one-stop shop for searching for e-content. I have some questions about it, but they also, I think, will be encouraging non-members like, I think that is a selling point, a value add, that they're going to be looking to recruit more members in the future with that information.
Interesting idea. We'll see. I mean, it's
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions about Erie, Illinois status? Super interesting and impressive that they can turn around and it's only a 2-week downtime. That's really impressive.
They're working really hard. Both Rails and Lyrasis, which I always want to say Lyrasis because I'm from Chicago. I don't know. But they're working really hard to get this done. They scheduled meetings with all LSAP directors, which I think was a good move. So we're kind of doing the communication for them, for our handful of members. So hopefully that helps a little. And that's what I know.
Nice.
Yes. Working hard.
Cool. Interesting. I've always been intrigued by the Palace project, so I'm
Same.
interested to see like what it, through member libraries, how it works out. So, okay, annual report preview.
This one's another preview for if there's questions or changes that you'd want to take to governing board. I don't want to shock you, but Molly worked on the annual report. She's been very busy. So I'd like to thank Molly for working on that. Do you want to do a quick run through, Molly?
Sure. We tried a little bit of a different format. Kept in the contextual information of mission, vision, and guiding principles. Included some write-ups on strategic directions and initiatives from the past year, and the current status of those, and then divide into like 3 sections of data. One for just CCS at a glance, web reports, the website, and circulation. And
Maybe
then
this will be easier to see.
One like mini dashboard for support statistics, I think, is the next one. And then training statistics. Pulled in some information that was being reported in different places, included them all in the annual report. And then ended with, what are we going to do next year? And so there's a lot that I want to do in terms of setting benchmarks and measuring new things for next year's annual report. But I think this is a good place to start.
I really, really liked this. Thank you. I think the data pages made it very digestible and pointed out some key things to me that I may have missed in previous reports. My only suggestion is on the last page, I had to read it a few times because I wasn't clear that these are our 2026 initiatives. So maybe just better labeling that that back page, but loved it all.
Can do.
This is a very minor thing, but if you wanted to keep it to an even number of pages for printing, I don't necessarily think you need a table of contents. It's a pretty tight document.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Sue.
I have a question because Molly had it one way and then I was like, oh, that's wrong, but I think that I was wrong. So Molly had our previous mission and vision that our like work for last year was under. And then I was like, oh, that's the wrong mission and vision. And then afterwards I was like, I think I shouldn't have had her change that. So the what's in here now is our current mission and vision that were just approved in May. But we should change it back to what it was that Molly had originally. Is that right? Does
Rebecca,
it matter?
I would ask yourself what the purpose of this report is. If it is literally meant to be a January through December accounting of what you did, then you would probably use the older one. But I will say that's kind of confusing to have like an out of date thing in there. So I would be asking myself questions on what's the purpose of this document.
Okay.
And I would add that at the start of this page, I would probably just put a note to that effect and just say our biggest initiative in 2025 was the development and launch of a new strategic plan. And then here it is. And then I think that covers both concerns.
Love it. Thank you.
Other feedback? All right, yeah, it's great. I love it's super simple to read and clean. It's great. Well done.
Thanks, Molly.
Okay. I think we are at the end of the meeting. Oh, no.
We added an agenda item for phone notes.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Well, we also need
We've got,
to do the biennium review.
yes.
So I can cover phone notices in my executive director report, which is right at the end. We only have one. We have one set of closed minutes that we've been keeping closed as they're related to a personnel
Right.
issue, and our recommendation is to continue to keep closed. And then we have a motion. We have one recording of closed session minutes that is ready to be approved for destruction. So we can go into closed session if you'd like to discuss the content or review the content of the minutes that are closed. But if you're comfortable with the recommended motions, we do not need to enter closed session and we can just do them. So I will defer to our illustrious president and chair and the committee.
Can I get a straw poll? How many does anyone feel that closed session is necessary?
Can I ask a question first? So as the new secretary, I just want to make sure I understand the process, because at our library, we assign 2 trustees to review verbatim and the minutes twice a year, and then they make a recommendation to the board on whether we're going to do the thing. It looks like our process here is different, which I'm fine with, but I just want to understand, as a secretary, is there something I need to do specifically, or is this just more of an executive committee thing?
So we have had, Beth and I have just been making the recommendations to executive committee, and then executive committee has been making the motion and determining. We have not specifically involved the secretary or a subgroup.
Okay, cool. Then I don't feel we need to go into closed session.
I don't think so either.
Same.
All right, seems to be a consensus then, and I'm comfortable with that as well. Okay, so then make determination about written minutes and recordings of closed session. So we want the action to basically.
We've got 2 potential motions. You can
Oh, thank you.
combine them if you want.
I'd be happy to make those motions. I move to keep the closed meeting minutes of January 1st, 2024 closed, and to destroy the verbatim recordings of closed session meeting from January 10th, 2024, to destroy that.
I'll second.
Sorry, who the second was?
Joanna.
Joanna.
All right, I don't think we need any discussion, so roll call.
Austin,
Yes.
Bertucci,
Yes.
Dombrowski,
Yes.
Lemke,
Yes.
Livergood,
Yes.
Reinders.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Now we're on reports. I probably should have my glasses because I saw adjourn, but I just like what's the meeting? Like no. Of reports, president's report. I don't think I have anything to report. So we'll move on to the secretary's report.
I also have no report.
All right, treasurer's report, Anthony.
I do have a brief report. I just wanted to note that we did receive the draft audit from ATA Group. We have a favorable opinion from the auditor. It was a strong year for our finances and everything appeared to be in order. Lauterbach reviewed the report as well as staff and the president and I. And I just want to commend the staff for their great work on their performance this year. And there are still some things about the audit that I don't completely understand, and I shared that. I will never understand GASB 96, but beyond that, I think we got another solid report this year and a favorable opinion from the auditor.
I have a question about the audit. I know that CCS isn't a proper, government agency. We kind of like walk the line a little bit on that. It's a III IGA. Are we required to do an annual audit, or is that a choice that we're making?
I would say it's probably a choice that we're making, but it is in our policy that we will do
Okay.
it.
And I'm not looking for any changes here. I just wanted to say that I know audits are getting more and more expensive, and if maybe this is a finance committee thing, if you ever wanted to consider maybe every other year or something like that, I just wanted to throw it out there. I'm not actively trying to diminish the confidence that an audit gives us, but if we're not legally mandated to do it, I don't know, maybe something to talk about in the future.
Yeah, I think the answer is we don't know if we're legally mandated to do it, so we do it.
Yeah, I get it.
I don't know. And so I think this year it's $12,000. So it's
We could check with our attorney, right? And they could tell us.
yes. So I mean, we have periodically checked with our attorney about various requirements, and the answer is always we're not sure. Better to be conservative than to not.
What the hell? Isn't that why we pay them?
Yeah, and I mean, so we've also consortia, whether, and I don't remember, I think CCS and Swan, maybe another one like did something like joint and like submitted a request to the public access counselor for like clarification, and they were like, no, we don't care, we're not going to answer. They declined to issue an opinion about our status and requirements under OMA and FOIA.
If I
so
remember
this is related.
If I remember correctly, I don't know if it's the same thing or not. I feel like the PAC said something along the lines of, we're not going to spend our time giving you an opinion, but if a complaint comes in to challenge it, then we will. And of course, none of us want to do that.
I would also say just in favor of having an audit for prospective members, like, boards may want to see that if Wakanda's got a really gung-ho treasurer, they may want to see that CCS is in good financial standing. So just as a compliance tool, but also as a way to make new members feel secure about joining CCS, I think we have to have one every year.
Yeah, I think Sue, they suggested that I don't remember how they phrased it, like a friendly court case or a friendly suit. They're like, if you sue each other, if one of you sues the other one, someone will have to answer. And we're like, we're not going to do that. So yeah, we just keep kind of like towing the line of like, we want to be transparent, and we like, it's on our projects again this year to look at moving to nonprofit status, this time from like a financial point of view instead of a transparency point of view. But it's the ongoing question.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions about the audit or for Anthony? Anthony, yeah, I just echo what you shared. It's thank you for your fantastic financial oversight. All right, committees and groups reports.
They are in the giant folder. If you have any questions on them.
Looks like seeing no questions. Executive director's report.
Okay, I have a few things that didn't make it into the packet. One is phone notices and internet changes. I intended to put this on the agenda earlier and I did not. We talked briefly at governing board a few months ago. We are decommissioning our physical phone notice server and the associated analog phone lines and moving to a cloud-based service with Unique management services. We're already using Unique for text message notifications. So we'll just be adding a service to our existing partnership. I think I can sign that contract because it's an existing vendor and it's operational and it's within the budget. So I'm going to do that. And then we are, after that transition is done, we'll be changing internet providers at our office as well. We pay almost $1,600 a month for internet at our office that nobody is at most of the time. So we'll be moving from a dedicated fiber circuit to shared business internet, and it will be a significant savings. And we think we're actually going to stay with AT&T. We got some different quotes from different vendors, and AT&T came out on top. So that transition will be happening after the phone notices. So that's all coming up. Any questions or concerns about that?
Is that, just a quick question, is that something that, yeah, I think you use OSG, right? Is that something they need to assist with, or is that a pretty seamless transition to the?
We'll be working with OSG because there will be firewall changes and IP address changes. So that internet transition will be, the phone notice transition will be CCS staff and Innovative staff.
Mhm.
The internet transition will be AT&T, CCS, and OSG.
Okay.
Yeah. I have really exciting news if you're me, which is that after months of back and forth and repeated rejections, we were approved for nonprofit and library pricing for Microsoft. So
Yay!
I'm really excited. And I made Beth be on a call with me yesterday to review our licenses. So that's another area where we'll be, seeing some savings we hadn't seen before. Hooray. You'll notice on the agenda, my review is on there, but I haven't finished my self-evaluation and it's on my agenda every single day to finish it. And every single day I have not finished it. So I will sally forth and actually finish it and send it to Ryan along with the next steps that need to happen after that. My apologies for being tardy for, I think, the 10th year in a row. January will be my 10-year anniversary, and I don't know that I've ever been on time with my review.
Well, you could put that as a goal, Rebecca, for next year. Get your review done on time, right? It's low-hanging fruit, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I was so confident this year, Monica. I remember in July, I had it on the agenda.
Yeah.
So I like it. Get it done as a goal, adding it. And then this meeting has been much longer than our usual meetings. So I will just say if you have feedback on the format of the materials for the meeting minute, if you want to email me or whatever. Again, I think you're all working on digital accessibility, and for us, our meeting documents are really the most public facing thing we have, and our giant PDF is not accessible. So I'm working on some options and testing some things out. I want to still make it easy for the board to get all the content without having to follow, a warren of links everywhere. But also board packet software is super expensive and I don't think necessary for CCS. So I'm trying some things. If you have any thoughts or feedback on this was horrible or fine or whatever, I'm happy to hear it or to receive it later via email. And if there's any questions on anything else.
Yeah, any questions before we adjourn? See no questions, can we get a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Second.
Couple seconds, I'm not sure.
Got Joanna.
Okay, all right. All right, and I think we just all in favor, aye.
Declare it.
We're done. Oh, that's right. Declare. We are adjourned. Thank you for your time today. Much appreciated, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a
Bye,
great
everyone.
day.
Happy
Thank you.
Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween.
Yeah.